Hey there, my friends. Today we are going to talk all about cybersecurity. One of my YouTube subscribers, someone named Luke, reached out to me and asked me a really simple question. He said, "Hey, Wes, I love cybersecurity. I'm a student. How do I get into this field? It feels like it's really difficult to get into. Are there secrets? Are there tricks? What would you recommend? And what could I learn from you?" Well, Luke, and to anybody else who's wondered that question, I am going to answer that in today's video. How do I get into the career of cybersecurity? If you and I are just meeting, my name is Wes Spencer, and I am a technology and a cybersecurity executive. I have been for a really long time, and part of this channel, I do cover cybersecurity. So we are going to answer those questions coming right up. So cybersecurity, why in the heck does anybody want to get into that industry? I mean, you look in the news cycle and you see it looks like hack after hack after hack. You see big companies, small companies getting hit. You see six-figure and in some cases 7 or 8-figure ransomware demands. You do see in some cases companies paying for those. You see the stress of the job. Why would anybody want to do cybersecurity? Well, I can't say much more other than my own experience, and it's this. It's challenging, it's rewarding, and it's a lot of fun. Growing up as a kid, I always loved to help people. And I usually felt my best when I had an opportunity to help someone in need. And for me, that materializes in cybersecurity. One reason I love it so much is that opportunity to truly affect change in an organization and bring value to them by reducing risk and giving them a competitive advantage against so many cyber threat actors and cyber criminals that are out there. It is a fun and rewarding career. And by the way, it can pay really, really well. I'm not going to cover too much about salaries in this video, but I do just want to say I've seen entry-level cybersecurity jobs, especially in small towns, somewhere around $45,000 to $55,000 a year, just starting out with no experience. Bigger cities, you'll see them start at $90,000. And then I have seen salaries go all the way up for cybersecurity executives into the 300s. 400s, and yes, $500,000 or more a year. And a lot of that will come inside of a comp package with equity incentives and things like that. But I probably got you interested in that, right? Yes, there is good money to be made in cybersecurity. We're not doing this for free. We need to lend our talents for something that would provide a lot of value. And so there is definitely something in it as a future career. Now, I'm not saying that all of you that get into cybersecurity are going to make those really high six figures, but I am saying it can be possible. So those are the reasons why I think it's fun to get into. There is a need for this. Companies are being hit left and right. It is rewarding to do true good for your organization. And hey, it pays well. That's important for all of us, right? We're not doing this for charity. So those are the big reasons why, if you're thinking about cybersecurity, why you might want to get into it. But this video, we're going to cover something a little bit more, which is this. How do I get in? It feels like there's a really big, thick glass ceiling right above us. And how do I get into it? How do I push through at that very first job and get that cybersecurity experience? That is so hard to do, and that's what we're going to cover today. And here's the funny thing about all of it. There's really, truly no barrier to entry. I saw someone post on LinkedIn recently about all of the different trades that are hard to get into that take some kind of training and experience. Things like HVAC technicians and electricians and even like barbers and hairstylists. There's a barrier to entry in those trades. Some of them might just be a few hours of work. Some of them can be years of trade work. But I can't just decide tomorrow I'm going to be an electrician and ta-da, I'm an electrician. It doesn't work that way. There's work and there's a true barrier to entry to get in. Cybersecurity doesn't have any of that. And that is true. It is very easy for me just to decide tomorrow I'm in cybersecurity and no one's going to stop me and say, well, where's your licensure? And where's your trade proof of all of this? It doesn't work that way. But even still, it is still difficult to get into a meaningful, true cybersecurity job. So while there's no barrier to entry, it can still be hard. And this is why people ask me this question all the time. How do I get into it? I'm trying to get into it. No one will hire me. I'm sending resumes out. I'm looking for jobs with cybersecurity in the title, and nobody will even give me the chance of an interview. How do I get into this? It looks like there's no barrier to entry, but it sure feels like there's an invisible one there. What am I supposed to do about that? Well, that's what we're going to cover. And I want to start with my own personal story of how I got into it, because I don't think I should really spend time talking about how to get into cybersecurity when I have been in for a long time and I don't share my own journey of how to get in. So when I finished college, I knew that I wanted to go into a technical field. I studied a technical degree from Murray State, go Racers, and I knew I wanted to do something technical. I'd had some internships in the past that gave me some IT experience, but I was very fortunate because I had a job while I was working in college. And if you're in university right now, you need to go get a job. Go get, if you can, a technical computer-based job of some kind. It is really important. And do not give me that excuse of, well, I'm too busy. Unless you're like a college athlete, you have time to make a job possible while you're in university. If you don't believe me, go and watch my YouTube video. I will put a link in the description down below about this one thing that will change your life. I did a video very recently around priorities, and I want you to watch that video if you're struggling and think that you can't make a job and university happen at the same time. And here's why that's important. In my experience, that paid off in dividends. And one of those dividends was job experience that led directly into a job right out of college. In fact, it was the same company I was working for in college. They liked me, they saw my work ethic, they knew I was getting ready to graduate, and they said, hey, we have a full-time job for you if you want to take it. And I'm like, so I can go from like part-time into a full-time role? And they're like, yes, and we're gonna give you salary, we're gonna give you benefits, we're gonna give you paid time off. And as a college kid that was just getting ready to graduate, I couldn't believe it. I was so excited. I didn't even negotiate the salary, which, by the way, I need to do a video on salary negotiations at some point. Anyway, I said, I'll take the job. That sounds awesome. And that was my first job. It was more IT based than it was security. But here was the big thing for me. I got a lot of experience in doing all things in the data center. This was in the mid 2000s, call it like 2004. And so there was still not a lot of cloud presence in those days, and most things were still done on-prem in a data center. And so I got experience working on firewalls, working on threat detection systems like Snort for intrusion detection, using code like Python and Perl to build some scripts and do some automation. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was building the groundwork of an information security career. I was doing it through classic IT operations, but it had the opportunity for me to get into security itself through some of the tools that I was using. And then what happened for me was I got an opportunity to go into a university as a network administrator and also be able to teach a couple of classes as an adjunct professor. And guess what those classes were? They were security classes. The university was looking for somebody with experience in firewalling. They couldn't find anybody. I happened to have that experience from my job right out of college. And I said, I'll teach those classes. And I learned as I went, and it was really hard at the very beginning. But I had so much opportunity in lab time to learn more about how firewalls work and different vendors and build curriculum around it. And that was really the beginning of my career. And I eventually went from being like a full-time network administrator, part-time teaching courses, into a full-time faculty role when I got my master's degree. And I started teaching all kinds of things like offensive security and hacking. I started teaching firewalls and threat detection and system security and vulnerability management and all of these things that were really good for me to learn. And so my route into security was a little different than some people's, just in the sense that I went into an academic teaching route first, but that for me gave me some opportunities of learning and experience that I then eventually went into a banking job as a chief information officer. And at that job as the CIO, responsible for overseeing all IT and all cybersecurity, I then went and transitioned from that academic job into another professional job, went back into the real world, so to speak. And that's where I led technology strategy. And so that's how I got into cybersecurity. And your journey is probably not going to be like my journey, but I want you to pick out a couple of things that were successful for me. The first thing that was successful for me was simply this. I was learning as I went. I had job experiences that let me get that job right out of college. I had opportunities to go learn security products in the data center, and I seized on that and I went and learned. And then also I continuously was looking to know more about how security works and intentionally picking jobs that would give me more and more cybersecurity experience. And I think you should do the same if you want to get into those jobs. So let's get a little bit more practical. I'm going to cover just a few things that I want you to know from my advice to you on how to get a cybersecurity job. And the first is this: if you already have that job and it's IT based, find ways to get into cybersecurity. Ask the people around you, even if you're kind of low level in the organization, hey, I want to go into a career in cybersecurity. Can you guys help me? Is there any like job shadowing that I can do? Are there any tasks that are cybersecurity related that I can learn? I'm not asking you to take those over, but do you have an opportunity for me to learn and to get some experience? You'd be surprised. The worst that they can tell you is no. And very commonly, most organizations are constantly looking to hire cybersecurity talent, and they're learning the best place to get it is from within their own ranks. Train up and teach our own employees that have interest and aptitude for it and pipeline them in. So all you have to do is ask. And so that's where you need to start. If they tell you no, we have nothing for you, that's fine. At least you asked and you knew. But I want to start there because it's easy. Open a conversation with your direct report. Find out if they have, whether it's a formalized internship program of sorts, or it's just a, yes, we'll let you shadow in some time. We can give you 2 to 3 hours a week for you to shadow. Or shoot, even if you have to do it like for free after hours with like the night guys just to learn, do it. You're after the experience. Remember, I said that glass ceiling that exists? It's definitely there. But the way you get through that is through experience. So the first thing you need to do is ask your employer, what do you have for me? And what can I do to learn? Second thing, the EDU route. Never a bad opportunity to go through education. I always say this: education will never really hurt you. It should only help you, at least at the BS, the Bachelor of Science route. I do encourage most students to steer away from an MS, a master's program in security, until they have some experience. I don't think generally it's a good idea to go right from bachelor's into master's and then try to find a job. People are going to say you're overqualified. Why did you not get job experience? You want us to pay for master's level stuff and senior level management when you have no experience? Yeesh, not willing to take that risk. That's what you're going to see happen often. Not to say you can't be successful, but it's much more difficult. So the BS route is fine. If you're going to go through an EDU route, and I can make another video on this for those of you that are interested, just let me know if there is interest in this, but I can cover what makes a good university program. But I want to give you a couple things. First of all, look at the professors that are teaching. Look at their background, their credentials, where they came from, what they're teaching, what they're researching, and just make sure it seems interesting. Also, look at what they're teaching in the courses. What courses are being taught? What pathways do they have? Are there any certifications that happen through the program? Are there any associations with federal government? The NSA, as an example, has some pipelining for university talent. Check for some of those kinds of things. Also, just take a look at the syllabus that are inside of each course and just make sure, yes, this maps into things that I want to do. And the last thing that I would do when it comes to picking a university is simply this, and I can cover this more in another video, like I said, but check pipelining. See if that university has at least 2 or 3 recruitment opportunities with other organizations that come to that university and pipeline talent. Now, how do you know that? Well, go ask. Are there organizations that come in and recruit students, somewhere between 3 and 10 for new employees inside that organization? If they have that kind of pipeline, that's a big deal, just to know your chances of getting that job out of college are way, way higher. The other way you can authenticate that, look on LinkedIn and see where those graduates are going. And you may get a good glimpse into what they're doing, what organizations they're working for. And maybe if you really want to be proactive, reach out to them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm a student in the same program you were in. What advice do you have for me? I'd love to work at your organization. Do you have an internship program? Do those things and you'll find success. Next thing, number 3 is certifications. Certifications are like EDU. They're never going to hurt you. They should only help you. Now, it's hard to get some certifications. I realize there's some cost to it, which is why you need that job. But I would at least start with a Security Plus. A Security Plus can be obtained with maybe 30 days of work. It will give you a really good overview and is a great starting point. You can do some other IT-based certifications as well, like ITIL, Network Plus, CCNA, all of these that are out there that are very common, that are easily obtainable. And what these are going to do is on your resume, it just distinguishes you a little bit more. It gives you a little bit more of an edge to say, I went above and beyond. A recruiting friend of me once told me this. They said, there's only a few objective things on a resume that I can look at that I know objectively say something. A college degree and GPA objectively means something, and a certification objectively means something. But there's a lot of things I could put into a resume that is subjective. For example, I could be a McDonald's burger flipper, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I could say I work in sales for a multinational organization. I guess it's true, right? I flip burgers at McDonald's and I sell them. You see what I mean? So that's why certifications are nice. At least it gives some guideposts to say this person has learned these things. And so again, your starting point should be a Security Plus. If you have the job experience, you can do a CISSP. You could look at some of the SANS certifications. There's a lot of others that are out there, and I can do a whole video on certifications. But those are things that will help you, never hurt you. You don't have to have a mountain of them, at least a Security Plus if you're starting out. And number 4, this is probably the most important of anything I could say. It's simply this: get experience. You've heard me say that over and over in this video. Well, how can I get experience if I have a job that is good, but not going to give me that pipeline into learning about cybersecurity? Do it yourself, my friend. That's what I want to tell you. Just go do it yourself. Build out your own home lab. Go to eBay and buy one of those Dell R610s or 710s or whatever they are. They're pretty cheap these days. Spin up VMware, ESX is free, and start putting tools on left and right. I'm telling you, you can absolutely do this. Build your own home lab. It'll pay off in dividends. Spin up Windows Server and get experience with it. You can use it free for a number of days so you can have all the learning you want on it. Learn Linux. I would start with CentOS and Ubuntu. Those are 2 great places to start. I'll put links in the description down below for both of those, and just get experience navigating around on all of those. If you want a security-based distribution, check out Kali Linux. Again, I'll put the link in the description down below. There are a bajillion YouTube videos from really smart people teaching you how to use all of that kind of stuff. Spin up a firewall. A firewall would be awesome to protect your own home lab and your own network. I would recommend pfSense. Great place to start. Build it, configure it, get it up and running. Check out some really cool open source network security tools like Zeek and Suricata are a lot of fun to start with. Build a malware lab where you're downloading malware, and I can show you where to get real, true, active malware and detonate it in a sandbox. I recommend Cuckoo as a sandbox. You can build it out, you can run it, you can see how it behaves, you can tweak and tune it and see if the malware detects that it's running in a sandbox or not, and what it looks like and what you know about it. Look at vulnerability management, things like NIC2 and OpenVAS. These are like, guys, things off the top of my mind. Every one of these tools I just gave you, maybe Elasticsearch for logging, the ELK stack as it's commonly called. These are all tools that are absolutely free and open source, and no reason you should not learn them and use them. Even if your organization that you're interviewing for does not use those tools, I promise you, they're going to see those on the resume that you have home lab experience, and they're going to come away impressed. It's going to give you those resume talking points. You're going to say, oh, so I see you use Suricata. That's really cool. What did you do with it? And you say, oh, I learned how to set it up in my own home network. I did a network tap. So I was seeing all my ingress and egress network traffic. I brought in some threat intelligence from Cisco Talos and emerging threats. And I started generating network alerts and investigating them. They go, that's really cool. That's awesome that you do that. Well, we don't use Suricata, but we use XYZ. And that's really cool that you have that experience. That's how the interview is going to go. They're going to love that you have the experience. It shows initiative. It shows that you have aptitude, and it gives them a level of confidence that you are somebody that knows your trade craft. And I just can't tell you how much that means in an interview, both when I interview talent and when I would recommend it for others. Now, the last thing, number 5, and it's short. Do something that I think a lot of people forget about. This is something that is incredibly effective, and yet I see people never do this. You want to know what it is? Leverage your contacts. If you're a student, go talk to your parents or guardians and say, who do you know? Maybe you have a relative that works at a bank, as an example. Go ask that person, that relative, hey, does your bank have an internship program? I want to get into IT and specifically in security. Go ask. Go find out, maybe there's some local trade organizations that you can get involved in. There's one called ISSA. Check it out. Again, I can put a link in the description down below. They will have local meetups. You can at least go for free. Eventually, they'll probably have a student option that you can pay for. Great way to just meet people and say, I'm interested. I want in on this career. What do you have for me? I want to work. I want to do something in security. Leverage those contacts. Friends and family is a great place to start. Local meetups, great place to start. And I promise you, if you put yourself out there with a smiling face and say, I don't know a ton yet. I've got a home lab. I'm building some cool stuff. I did that certification, but I want to work in security. Those contacts are the key to pushing you over the edge. All right, so there you have it. My 5 recommendations to get through that thick glass ceiling that does exist to get into cybersecurity and build a fantastic career. Hey, I want to know from you, does that make sense? Does that bring up any burning questions that I can answer? Any future videos you'd like for me to produce on this? Let me know what you think. And the last thing I'd love for you to do, if this has been helpful, 2 things: share this out with your friends. Share this out with your university. Let them see it. Share this out with anybody that you would like to see this video that you think it would help. And number 2, hit the subscribe button. That would go a long way for me and my channel. I'm building content for you guys every day, and I love to do this. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you guys so much.